All right, today we're going to dive into the simple but really powerful philosophy of Jim Rohn. He was a man who believed your income is a direct reflection of your own personal growth. We're going to see how one single, kind of embarrassing moment completely transformed his life, and who knows, maybe how it could transform yours, too. But first, let's just kick things off with a question. Now, it might make you a little uncomfortable, but it's right at the heart of everything Rohn talked about. Are you actually being paid what you're truly worth? Just let that sink in for a second.
So, who was this guy who dared to ask such a tough question? Well, let's meet the mentor's mentor himself, Jim Rohn.
You see, Jim Rohn was this amazing American entrepreneur and author, and he was famous for his absolutely classic rags to riches story. His journey from being flat broke to becoming wealthy wasn't just some nice story he told on stage. No, it was the bedrock of everything he taught. And his influence? I mean, it's just massive. He mentored giants like Tony Robbins and Les Brown. Think about that for a second. When the people who motivate millions of us turn to you for advice, you know your philosophy has some serious weight.
You know, every big idea has an origin story, right? For Rohn, it wasn't some flash of genius in a library or a lab. Nope, it all started with a simple knock at his front door.
See, when he was 25, Rohn was completely broke. He was way behind on his bills, and he was making promises to his family that he knew deep down he just couldn't keep. He was desperate.
And then, that knock happened. He opened the door, and there was a little Girl Scout, just selling cookies. You know, a totally normal, everyday moment that for Rohn turned into something profoundly embarrassing.
He wanted to buy some, of course he did, but he couldn't. He had to lie to this little girl, saying he already had plenty of cookies at home. And look, it wasn't really about the money for the cookies. It was the shame of that moment, the lie he felt he had to tell. That was his breaking point. He decided right then and there, I've had it. I am done with being broke.
So, that moment of deep personal shame, well, it sparked something. It led to a life-changing discovery. It had nothing to do with cookies and everything to do with value. And this idea became the absolute core of his entire philosophy.
So here's the lesson, the big one that changed everything for him. You don't get paid for your time, you get paid for the value you bring to the marketplace. It wasn't the economy holding him back, it wasn't his boss, it was his own value. And that one single shift in how he thought, it made him a millionaire by the time he was 31.
This is where Rohn made a really important distinction. He famously said that formal education will make you a living, but self-education, that will make you a fortune. He believed that constantly learning on your own was the real key to becoming more valuable. Now, it is fair to point out that the source material also notes that, yeah, research does show a link between more formal education and higher income. But Rohn's whole point was about what you do to improve yourself after the formal schooling is over.
And all of this whole idea of self-education, it all boils down to his biggest concept, that your personal philosophy is the single biggest thing that determines whether you succeed or fail.
See, Rohn looked around and saw so many people who were just stuck. They were trapped by what he called unsuccessful philosophies. You know the type. They point fingers at the government, at taxes, at their company. They demand to be paid more without actually becoming more valuable. And that, he said, is a recipe for staying exactly where you are.
So what's the real answer, according to Rohn? It's not about looking outward and waiting for things to change. It's about turning inward, focusing on your own performance, your own productivity, becoming so good, so skilled, so valuable that the world just has no choice but to reward you. And that brings us to maybe his most famous piece of advice ever. If you work hard on your job, you'll make a living. That's fine. But if you work hard on yourself, on your skills, on your mindset, on your character, you can make a fortune. The logic is just so simple. Your income will almost never outgrow your own personal development.
Okay, so we get it. Personal development is the key. But how does that actually, lead to success? Well, that brings us to the final and maybe the most powerful piece of the whole puzzle.
And here it is. This is the big mindset shift. Stop chasing success. Instead, focus on becoming the kind of person who just attracts it. See, you don't get what you want in life. You get what you are.
Let's think about it like this. Success isn't some butterfly you run around frantically trying to catch in a net. No way. It's a ladder. And you build that ladder, one rung at a time, by improving yourself. As you become more valuable, more disciplined, more knowledgeable, success just naturally finds its way to you.
So we'll end with this. Rohn's philosophy isn't about some distant, far-off future.
It's about what you do right now. It's not about taking giant leaps. It's about those small, consistent steps. So I'll just leave you with this question. What is the one thing, just one, that you can do today to start climbing your ladder and become a more valuable person?